So, no secret that we are really forward-thinking when it comes to our renewable energy here in Barnstable, and receiving some pretty big recognition for that.
Well, it was really nice to get the morning mail and look at this publication that came through the Department of Energy in conjunction with the ICMA, which is our trade organization, and they cited 27 case studies of communities around the country, and Barnstable was right up there at number 3. And in terms of utilizing solar energy as a renewable energy source, and they cited Barnstable. They went through some of our attributes in terms of the size of the town and whatever, but they said that Barnstable achieved the most total solar energy capacity and the 3rd highest solar PV installations of any municipality in the Commonwealth. And I think what they really showed through this and their analysis is that they were looking at the partnerships we made, both with the state and local agencies. They were talking about CVAC and the Cape Light Compact that have worked with us to achieve this sort of capacity within our solar renewable energy. And they also went back and talked about town manager leadership in terms of talking about the commitment that John Klim, town manager from '99 to 2011, who was an early advocate of renewable energy, made, and began this whole process. And then they used a quote from me that we had submitted regarding reducing greenhouse emissions through energy efficiency and renewable energy as being central to the town's management and growth strategy. So it was very nice to see this. I'll be going through to see what other communities have been doing as to how they achieved recognition. But I think this shows that our community is forward-thinking, has been in the forefront of this, and I'm hopeful that as we look at this documentation, that when you have Richard Elrick in at the end of the week or the beginning of next week, he can go into greater detail with this and talk about the solar PVs that were put on rooftops and other places to achieve this national recognition.
Without a doubt, but really, again, just showing our commitment really is making an impact and is being recognized on a national scale is pretty special.
Well, I think we have a lot of areas that we've really tried to push forward and push the envelope on, and when you see a national organization or others recognizing that, it's always gratifying.
Absolutely. So we are in the budget. Council made quick work of several areas last Thursday, and the debate will continue on the 16th. So tell me a little bit about where we are in terms of budget approval for the operating budget.
I think, first of all, that we have tried to, in working with the council leadership, to clear the deck and make sure that we're dealing with the budget mainly when we started on June 2nd. We did have to do the water quality initiative that you talked about earlier in your newscast, $540,000, that an emergency funding that we put together to get the carbon filtration system that we need in at Mary Dunwell 3, so we can, which is kind of deja vu. This is the same thing we were doing last year with the plume and the contaminants that still seem to be coming from the Fire Training Academy. So we took immediate action on that. We had shut the well down to eliminate that threat, and did a lot of communication with the residents around to make sure that everybody knew how we were dealing with this and eliminating it, and how we would eliminate it in the future by putting in this system. So it's a correctable problem. We're taking the steps to do that. So that took a short period of time in the beginning. Councils asked questions about that, and then we were able to move very quickly into the budget. We, it took us about 3.5 hours. So short work, as you say. They were able to get through 13 of 25 items.
Great.
And that had kind of been our goal from in terms of breaking it into 2 different nights. We will have left on the 16th to do schools, which is always, 2/3 of the budget that we have to look at. We have DPW, and they have their general appropriation and plus each of their enterprise accounts.
Sure.
And then some stuff that, well, certainly tourism and the libraries will be there to make a presentation. Then we have some areas like fixed costs, assessments that are made, debt service. We'll also cover some of the smaller budgetary items, but equally important through the Community Preservation Act. We'll set aside the 10% that needs to be set aside for each of the categories of housing and open space and historic preservation. And then we'll also deal with their debt service, because they carry debt that they fund through their appropriation. And we'll look at the Comcast licensing, which is important to this operation.
Of course.
Because those are the fees that fund our outreach, both at the schools and the media outreach here that we do on Barnstable This Morning and Barnstable Today. So I think that if we're able to keep the decks clear, while 13 items might not seem like a lot, at the same time we want to give a lot of time for councils to ask questions, and they brought up a lot of different issues, and I think that we addressed them well. I think one thing that I wanted to point out about the whole budgetary process is that each of the departments puts together, a fairly elaborate, presentation
Yes.
that they make. And part of that is because they are, it's their opportunity to say to the governing body, as well as the general public that's watching, here are some of our accomplishments through the year. Here's what we'd like to do in the coming year. I always enjoy seeing the presentations, because we naturally on the administrative side attempt to put together funding to achieve certain successes. So over the course of my tenure, I've always been very careful about looking hard at the public safety initiatives that we have, and looking to see ways that we can improve public safety for our citizens. So when the Chief of Police, Paul McDonald, went through his presentation and showed the Part 1 index crimes for and looked at the change just from fiscal years 14 to 15,
Sure.
We saw a 20% drop in those crimes. And that includes stuff like murder, rape, robbery, aggravated assault, the major crimes that are out there. He then showed a 20-year comparison from 1995 to 2015, and the significant part of that is that over that period of time, we've seen a reduction of 51% drop in all of these various crimes here in the town of Barnstable. I think things like, making sure that all of our patrol are dispersed appropriately throughout the town and have adequate training, and that there are secondary police stations out in Marston's Mills, Osterville, and here in Hyannis, and the street crimes unit and the community impact unit. All of those initiatives that have been brought forth that we've had to fund and cost money to do, but there's a direct correlation to that, and I think it gives a level of public safety that we're really pleased with. So the police, when they made their presentation, they were also talking about the community resource officers that we've talked about on this show, 6 new individuals going out in teams of 2 that will be wearing polo shirts with insignia, saying they represent the town of Barnstable. The chief did a good job of explaining these are not uniformed officers. They're just there to assist and be the eyes and ears and make sure that if there's a response time that's necessary in the downtown area, it comes as quickly as possible.